And joining me now is Congressman Eric Cantor to talk about his own race and the race for president in the very hot state of Virginia. And Congressman Cantor, you've been around Virginia politics for a long time. Have you ever seen the Commonwealth in such a spotlight as it's been in 2012?
Ryan, I really can't. I cannot remember a time in which Virginia is so important in terms of the outcome of the national election. I'm sure we have been in this role before, but I can't recall. And obviously, I think everybody in the Commonwealth who is not registered to vote, now is the time because it will run out after today. You know, honestly, this is a big election. This is a big election for Virginians just like all Americans. It's a real choice about the direction we're going to take the country and whether the last 4 years is the route we'd like to go or whether it is another way that would, I think, prove to be more of a growth-oriented agenda that could help get people back to work, an agenda that will help small businesses get back up off their feet and create jobs.
What would you attribute the fact that your candidate, Governor Romney, has tightened things in the polls? Obviously, he had the strong debate performance, but are there some other characteristics at play here that you think have gotten him more competitive in this race?
Well, you know, obviously, I think that it's the reality of where people are right now in their lives. I mean, we have an employment rate in this country that is the lowest it's been in 30 years. That's the number of people who are actually working. The number of people on food stamps, the number of people in poverty is the highest it's been ever. So I do think that the reality that there are not as many jobs being created as we would like, the fact that we're seeing rising healthcare costs, rising gas prices, all of this, I think, is testament to the failure of some of the policies that this president has backed during his tenure. And I do think people are sort of tuning in now to the election, realizing that there is a better way, and that Mitt Romney has put forward a 5-point plan to try and address the problems so we can see the working mom or dad have it a little easier, so we can allow them to get back to work and allow them to plan for their children's future.
Skeptical folks are going to take a look at the way Congress has been the last couple of years with a divided government. You obviously in the House, and then the President in the White House and the Senate Democratic. Perhaps we end up with another divided government, even if Governor Romney is elected president, because the Senate may still be in the control of Democrats. What can be done to allow for more bipartisan effort in Washington so that some of these things that all of you are talking about in terms of turning around the unemployment rate and allowing more jobs to be created, something substantial can be accomplished in Washington?
You know, I think it's pretty straightforward. If we have people on both sides of the aisle willing to accept that reasonable people can disagree, but there's plenty of room for all of us to find things in common and to identify results that we can achieve and then deliver. You know, I think all of us realize no two people are going to agree on everything, and reasonable people can disagree. And the definition of bipartisanship and leadership, frankly, is to be able to do that, identify where there are commonalities. And Mitt Romney is a person, he was a Republican governor in one of the most democratic states in the country, Massachusetts, and was dealing with a legislature there overwhelmingly Democratic, and I think is proven he can deliver results. That's what's not been the case. We've not seen a White House or president, frankly, that's been successful at bringing both sides together, and it's not as if we have not tried. I mean, as you know, in the House, we have continued to try and ratchet down the deficit and stop all the spending of the money we don't have. We try to put in place policies that will help small businessmen and women, and unfortunately, they've met you know, a lot of resistance with Harry Reid in the Senate, and the Senate's refused to take up over 30-some bills that we've said, hey, this could help the businessman or woman get back to work or the working family have a job.
And do you think that that will change if President Romney were to become the president? Because if the Democratic hands are still in Senator Reid's control, could you still run into some of that resistance? What's it going to take to break through some of those log jams?
I think a lot of it has to do with who's in the White House. A lot of it has to do with the individual taking steps towards bringing people together. And if you look at the campaign that has been ensuing over the last year or so, you know, the president has not been identified with steps or efforts to bring people of different perspectives together to arrive at a result.
Let's talk about your race. You obviously have a spirited opponent this year in Wayne Powell, former Army colonel, and he's thrown quite a bit of accusations at you. He's talked about the contributions that you receive from some big corporations, and he has signs that say that you've been bought and paid for by some of these lobbyists. How would you respond to some of those very direct and almost personal allegations?
Well, first of all, I'd say they are just completely false. And secondly, I think it is reflective of the kind of individual that he would be if he were elected and the kind of policies that he would pursue. I mean, we all know there's enough name calling and blame to go around, and that kind of character assassination and all those things that are connected with his conduct do not make it any easier in politics to try and achieve results for the hardworking taxpayers that are so frustrated. And again, it's what's wrong with politics today. So that's why we've tried to stay on the issues. There is a real difference between myself and my opponent about what we believe in terms of cutting taxes. He believes we ought to raise taxes on businesses. We believe in an economy of the way it is. How can you say that raising taxes on a small businessman or woman helps? Or how about all the working families in the greater Richmond area who already are having to shell out more for their health care expense, saving for college, paying for gas? How would they respond to my opponent's position that you ought to raise taxes on them? Again, if you look at it, he is in favor of Obamacare. This is a bill that is going to end up really affecting people's health care outlook. Obviously, we've already seen a massive increase in the prospects of health care that will change, as well as premiums going up. And that's what he's for, and I'm not. And we've put out there the sort of agenda that I would continue to support. And I'm confident that the people of the 7th District are hardworking, honest people who want to see an issues-based debate and then results on those positions.
Finally, last question for you. You have another role as the House Majority Leader, and that's to continue to see Republicans elected to the House, and you've spent a lot of time in other districts across the country trying to get Republicans elected. Do you think when it's all said and done, we're going to see a net positive gain for Republicans? Are you going to lose some seats? Where do you forecast that for me? Where do you think it's going to end up?
I'm bullish on the outlook in the House elections. I have many colleagues who are in races that are spirited, but I believe that what we'll see is a net increase in the number of Republican seats in the House. And I think that'll be a majority that will afford President Romney a stronger hand in trying to produce the kind of results that he's been talking about, getting people back to work, helping the hardworking taxpayers of this country see a better future.
Okay. As always, thank you, Congressman, for being here.
Thank you.
All right.